Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Great Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Well, here it is, another Wednesday, and today we have for our topic, why is there death? A very serious topic, if you ask me. Why is there death? And why must we tolerate death? And why do people die? Well, first of all, we ask, why would Goddess allow death? Why would Goddess allow death? And why is there death in this world? And why does everyone die? Why does everyone die without any exceptions? Well, there's two answers. Death is both a punishment and a reward. Now, how can death be both a punishment and a reward? Well, it's because people do things in their lives that are both good and evil, and when they die, they're judged. And whether they've done good or evil, they either are punished or rewarded upon death. So, this is the reason why we have death. Because people do things during their lives that have to be judged. And death is the opportunity for the judgment to take place. So, why is there death? Why do we have death? Well, it's both a punishment and a reward, and I'll start with the punishment part first. We have done something that has caused us to be separated from Goddess. And we don't know what it is, what we did wrong, because we can't remember. We're born without the memory. Why are we born without the memory? Well, it is because we're starting from scratch. We're starting from scratch. Brand new, no memories, no proof, just born into the world. And there's a few reasons for this, but the most important one is that we're starting with a clean slate. We're not remembering any of the evil we might have done before we were born. And that's very important because if we remembered all the evil we did before we were born, we might have a guilt complex, and we might be born feeling guilty or angry or ready to do bad because we're born with this guilt complex. Because we're born not remembering, it's as if we're innocent and pure. We don't know what we did wrong to deserve being born into this life. But we did do something wrong to deserve being born into this life, because otherwise we wouldn't have death. See, there wouldn't be death and suffering in this world if it weren't for something we did wrong. So all of us have done something wrong that we can't remember. And one of the things we did wrong, not all, but one of the things we did wrong was reject our Goddess. And because we rejected her, we're punished by being born in this world where there's death and suffering. So that is one of the reasons why death is a punishment. Another reason is because we did other things wrong other than reject Goddess that were bad, that we are punished for in this life. And we can't, sometimes bad things happen to good people, and there's people who seem to be punished more in this life than others, and it seems as if life is completely unfair. But what you have to keep in mind is we did something to deserve being here in the first place. That's why we're here. And so because we're here, that's why we're punished. So that's why we're punished, because of what we did before we were born, before we came here. So that's why we're here. And so when it seems like bad things happen to good people, it's true. Bad things really do happen to good people. In fact, all the time, things happen by chance or by circumstance, or because a person was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or it could be because of the free will of somebody else exercising their free will to do bad to another person. So there's all sorts of reasons why. But sometimes bad things happen to good people because they're being punished. Not always. Not always. Let's emphasize that. Can't emphasize that enough. Not always. But sometimes people are being punished in this life for something they did in a past life. So we have to keep in mind that bad things do happen to good people, and that people have free will, and there's circumstance, and that bad things can happen to good people because of circumstances beyond our control. But sometimes people really are being punished for what they did in a past life, and the same thing is happening to them that they did to somebody else. So that explains why they're punished in this life, because of what they did. So why is there death? Because everybody has to die, because everybody did something wrong. However, if you serve at least one life and you live as good of a life as you can, then you get to go to paradise. And what is paradise? Well, paradise is a wonderful place. It's a place where everyone is happy all of the time, and they're not forced to be happy either. They're really genuinely happy because it's a wonderful place to be, and it's a wonderful place to live. So if you live a good life, you'll go to paradise. Now, what is it then? Why would death be a reward? Because when you die, if you've lived a good life, you get to go to paradise, and that's a reward. So it's your reward comes after you die. Now you wonder, why do you have to die? You prefer life on earth, even if there is suffering. Why not just stay here? Because you have to grow. You have to grow and expand and move your horizons outward. And being in paradise is part of that natural progression. It's part of the growth experience. The growth that you experience in your life culminates in death and going to paradise. And so paradise is a necessary thing. It's not just a wonderful place to live, because it is. It's a necessary progression or growth of what you've learned before. You get your reward when you die, but it's also natural progression. It's a form of spiritual growth to go to paradise. So the reason why there's death, it's both a punishment and a reward. And a lot of people can't wrap their heads around, well, which is it? Is it a punishment or is it a reward? Because it's both. Because there's also other reasons why we die. For one thing, if everybody lived here on Earth, the Earth would become overpopulated, and then people would begin to starve, and then they would die anyway. So to prevent mass starvation, people have to die to make way for future generations to learn their lesson here on Earth. There needs to be enough room for future generations to come to Earth to learn their lessons that they need to learn here. So, in order to make way for future generations that need to learn lessons here on Earth, people have to die to make way for those new generations. So there's many reasons why we die, but death is a natural part of our existence here on Earth. It's not natural in the total scheme of things, but it's natural here on Earth for us to die, and it's natural for us to go to paradise and live on in paradise after we die, because the soul is eternal. And even if I didn't believe anything else I believe, even if I didn't believe in goddess or anything, I believe that the soul is eternal, because I've had proofs in my own personal life of the eternity of life. Because, I've seen ghosts, and I've experienced ghosts before, and I've had dreams about people who died that were still happy and alive, and they were in paradise and they were happy. So I know that the soul is eternal. That's one of the mainstays of all true religions everywhere. The eternity of the soul is a given, that the soul is eternal, that goes on forever, that never dies and never ends. And so we know that the soul is eternal. Okay, we know that for a fact. Where the soul goes, we don't know, because we have no memory of what came before, so we don't know what comes after. But because the soul is eternal, we know that the soul is going someplace. And it has to go someplace when the person dies, and it makes sense for the person to go to paradise. Now, what happens, just a hypothetical, what happens if you're bad? If you live a really crummy life and are really bad, what happens to you? Well, then you go to hell. And hell is a place that's little spoken of, but there's many hell realms. There's not just one. And you go to the one that's appropriate for your crimes that you may have committed while you were alive. And you don't stay there forever. Let me emphasize that. Nobody, and I mean nobody, goes to hell forever. You go based upon your actions during your life. You have to be really bad to go to hell, okay? If you're a little bad, you go back to Earth. If you're really bad, you go to hell. So that is the answer. If you've done bad things, generally you will be born on Earth. If you've done bad things, generally you will be born on Earth, because a lot of people have done bad things that they can be punished on Earth. But if you've done things that are so heinous and so wicked that there's no other way to punish you except for you to go someplace other than Earth, that's when people go to hell. So, armies of the past that committed atrocities, those people go to hell. People who have committed atrocities in their lifetime go to hell. Serial rapists, murderers, those are the type of people that go to hell. People who go to Earth are people who've committed lesser crimes, just crime of being crabby or not liking other humanity or being a cruel person or whatever you might have done that is a minor offense. You go back to Earth for that. And so we know now what happens when we die. We can be born back on earth. We can go on to paradise if we've lived a good life. And you don't have to live a perfect life to go to paradise. You just have to do your best. Or you can go to hell for whatever it is you've done that's an atrocity. So that is the answer to why there's death and what happens after we die, and where we go after we die, and all of that. Why is there death? I'm Sarah Jane Alpha Wolf signing off. Have a great week, and don't worry.